The business environment has changed so incredibly fast over the last couple of decades, hasn't it?
It really has. Trying to understand it, strategize around it, well, it's more critical now than ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got globalization, intense competition, tech advancements.
Hmm.
It's created a whole new reality for businesses,
Exactly. It's not just about what companies can sell anymore. It's shifted to understanding what customers actually want to buy.
which is precisely why today's deep dive is so important for you, the learner. We want to unpack some key aspects of this modern business landscape.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be focusing on things like strategic cost and performance management, quality, supply chains, trying to make these complex topics accessible and thorough without feeling overwhelming.
Right. And we've got a range of source materials we're drawing from. We'll also touch on that big shift, from a seller's market to today's buyer's market.
What drove that shift, really?
Well, it's a mix of things. We mentioned globalization, fierce competition, often excess production capacity, new management methods popping up, data being more available, resources arriving just in time, even the ease of travel plays a part.
Okay, so let's dive into the first major area, strategic cost and performance management. And a really big piece of that puzzle is the cost of quality, or COQ.
Right. Coca-Q, it's not a brand new idea, but experts like Philip Crosby really popularized it.
So what is it, fundamentally?
In simple terms, cost of quality is basically the sum of all the costs involved in preventing and detecting poor quality products or services,
Okay.
plus the costs incurred because of poor quality happening.
So does that just mean better quality always costs more money? Is it that straightforward?
Well, that used to be the traditional view. Yeah, higher quality equals higher cost. But now there are really three main perspectives.
Okay.
The first one still kind of holds that view that achieving higher quality, like better performance or features, needs more effort, better materials, maybe more complex design. And the extra revenue you get doesn't always cover those extra costs.
What about the other two views?
The second perspective flips that. It argues that the savings you get from improving quality actually outweigh the costs of making those improvements.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, W. Edwards Deming really pushed this idea, and it's still big in Japan. The savings come from reducing things like rework, scrap, and other direct costs tied to defects.
And the third view?
That comes more from the total quality management, or TQM, proponents. They argue that quality costs are incurred because a product wasn't done right the first time.
Right.
And it's not just the direct costs. It includes lost customers, maybe losing market share, and a lot of hidden costs and missed opportunities that traditional accounting systems often miss.
That's fascinating. Now, Crosby broke down COQ into two main parts, didn't he?
He did. He called them the price of conformance and the price of nonconformance.
Conformance and nonconformance, okay.
Right. Price of conformance is the cost of making sure your product or service meets the required standards. Think of it as doing things right. And nonconformance.
That's the cost incurred when the product or service fails to meet those standards, the cost of things going wrong.
And these can be broken down further.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We often talk about the PAF model: prevention, appraisal, and failure costs. Conformance costs map onto prevention and appraisal costs, sometimes called the cost of good quality.
Okay.
And nonconformance costs map onto internal and external failure costs, the cost of poor quality.
Got it. Let's unpack those PAF components a bit more. Prevention costs first.
Sure. Prevention costs are all about stopping poor quality from happening in the first place. It's money spent proactively to avoid quality problems.
So planning ahead.
Precisely. These costs are planned, incurred before operations start, and they relate to designing, implementing, and maintaining the quality management system. The main goal here is to minimize failure and appraisal costs down the line.
Can you give some examples what falls under prevention?
Oh, lots of things. Quality engineering, quality training programs, planning, reporting, quality audits, supplier evaluation, and selection.
Even things like preventative maintenance on equipment, testing new materials, supplier education, it all fits under prevention.
Makes sense. Now, what about appraisal costs?
Appraisal costs are related to the need for control within products and services. It's about ensuring high quality levels at every stage, making sure things conform to standards.
So checking things.
Essentially, yes. It's the cost of measuring and monitoring quality-related activities. The aim is to confirm whether a product or service meets the quality requirements.
What kind of activities are we talking about here?
Things like field testing, inspecting and testing materials coming in, inspecting packaging, product acceptance testing, process acceptance, checking measuring equipment, maybe getting outside certifications, all appraisal.
Okay, prevention and appraisal.
Good costs.
Then we get to the failure costs. Internal first.
Right. Internal failure costs are those associated with defects found before the customer receives the product or service.
Catching mistakes inside the company.
Exactly. It's the cost of correcting deficiencies found before delivery. Happens when the output doesn't meet design quality standards.
Example.
Classic examples are scrap material or products that are just unusable. Rework fixing defective items, sometimes redesigning things, retesting, and unplanned downtime caused by quality issues.
Got it. And finally, external failure costs.
These are the costs of rectifying defects after they've reached the customer. This happens when products or services that didn't meet the quality standards are shipped out.
Ouch. That sounds expensive.
It often is the most expensive. Think about product recalls, lost sales because of poor performance, handling returns and allowances.
Warranties.
Definitely warranties, repairs, product liability claims, customer dissatisfaction, which is huge but hard to quantify and potentially losing market share. All external failure costs. The total TOQ is just the sum of all four categories: prevention, appraisal, internal failure, and external failure.
So how do you actually calculate this KOQ?
Well, it can be measured in terms of effort, like labor hours or days, or directly in monetary terms. Probably the best approach for comparison purposes is to calculate it as a percentage of total costs. That makes it easier to benchmark across different projects or even companies.
And who should do the calculating?
Good point. To ensure impartiality, it's often recommended that someone outside the direct project team, maybe someone from accounting, determines the KOQ, keeps things objective.
Our source material mentioned an illustration, LiveWell Limited. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. LiveWell makes LED lamps, and they currently have a 5% rejection rate, costing them $200 for each rejected unit.
Okay.
Their quality control department proposes a new inspection process. It would cost 15,000 per day, but they predict it'll drop the rejection rate to 3%.
So is it worth it?
Let's look at the numbers. Reducing rejection by 2% means 100 fewer rejected units per day, assuming their volume implies this. At 200 saved per unit, that's a saving of 20,000 per day.
So the 20,000 saving outweighs the 15,000 cost?
Exactly. There's a net benefit of 5,000 per day. So the proposal looks beneficial. The analysis even calculated the break-even point. It remains beneficial as long as the rejection rate stays at or below 3.5%.
So the key takeaway for you, the learner, is the importance of data-driven decisions when evaluating quality initiatives.
Right. You can't just assume fewer defects is always better financially. You have to run the numbers, weigh the costs against the benefits.
Which brings up a question. Is aiming for 0 defects always the most economical goal?
Not necessarily. That's where the concept of optimal QQ comes in.
Okay.
The idea is that spending more on prevention and appraisal can significantly reduce failure costs. But there's often an optimal level, a sweet spot, where the total cost of quality is minimized.
So pushing for absolute 0 defects might actually cost more overall than accepting a very small defect level.
It can, yes. Continuously striving for 0 defects might not always be in the company's best economic interest. There's generally a trade-off between the cost of conformance, prevention appraisal, and the cost of non-conformance failure.
We also had a case scenario involving JKLTD. What was happening there?
Right. JKLTD makes a single product. They currently have annual external failure costs of $4 million or $40,000 and internal failure costs of $8 million, $50,000.
Okay, pretty high failure costs.
Yeah. They're considering a new quality control system. It would add $5,060,000 in prevention costs and $70,000 in appraisal costs annually.
But it would reduce failures.
That's the plan. It's expected to cut external failures by 1,000 and internal failures by 4,010,000.
So let's do the math. Added costs are $6,030,000. Reduced failure costs are $5,010,000.
Right. So purely financially, the new system actually increases total costs by $1,020,000 per year. Based solely on that, they might reject it.
But there's more to it.
Exactly. The case suggests considering non-financial factors like improved customer satisfaction and potentially higher profitability down the line. Taking those into account, the company should probably accept the proposal.
And achieving 0 defects for them.
The advice is that it requires continuous improvement programs, focusing on eliminating all kinds of waste rework, scrap, idle time. But again, there should probably be an acceptable defect level where the total quality cost is minimized. It highlights that balance between financial and non-financial factors for you, the learner.
You mentioned the PAF model earlier. What are the steps to actually apply it?
It's generally a 5-step process. First, gather baseline data on failures in the system.
Okay.
Second, apply some assumptions to quantify that data. Third, Chart and analyze the data based on those 4 elements: prevention, appraisal, internal failure, external failure.
Right.
Fourth, allocate resources to tackle the identified weaknesses. And fifth, regularly repeat the study and evaluate your performance. It's a cycle.
And the iceberg model, how does that help visualize quality costs?
The iceberg model.
Yeah.
It's a great visual. It basically says that only a small fraction of the true cost of good and poor quality is visible above the waterline, the obvious stuff.
Like scrap or warranty costs.
Exactly. But there's a huge mass of costs hidden below the waterline. Things like lost customer loyalty, damage to reputation, excess inventory held just in case, management time spent on problems.
So the potential for savings is much bigger than it looks.
Precisely. If you can identify and reduce those hidden costs, the overall cost of doing business can drop significantly. For you, the learner, remember, what you see might just be the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly and talk about total quality management. TQM, what exactly is it?
TQM is a management approach that really emerged in the 1950s but gained more traction from the early 80s. Figures like Deming, Duran, and Feigenbaum were key developers.
And the core idea.
It's a management philosophy focused on meeting customer needs and organizational objectives by integrating all organizational functions.
Okay.
To focus on continuous improvement internally, aiming to enhance the quality of the organization's output.
So what are the main objectives of TQM?
The primary goal is really to eradicate waste and increase efficiency by ensuring the organization's product or service is done right the first time.
Doing it right the first time.
Yeah. SEMA defines it as an integrated system for planning and controlling all business functions so you can build products or services that meet or exceed customer expectations. It embraces principles like employee involvement, continuous improvement at all levels, and a strong customer focus. For the learner, it's crucial to see TQM not just as a process, but a whole mindset focused on making everything better.
You mentioned principles. What are the 6 C's for successful TQM implementation?
Right, the 6 C's, they are commitment, culture, continuous improvement, cooperation, customer focus, and control.
Okay, break those down a bit.
Commitment has to come from the top. Clear, strong commitment from senior management is essential. Culture change is needed. Training is vital to shift employee attitudes. Continuous improvement means recognizing TQM is an endless journey, always looking for ways to improve.
Makes sense.
Cooperation requires active involvement from all employees. Customer focus means customer needs are the driving force. And control involves processes, documentation, and awareness of best practices.
Deming was a key figure. What was his main contribution? Those famous 14 points.
Yes, Deming, often called the father of quality control. His 14 points were principles to help companies achieve quality improvement.
What's the underlying philosophy?
It's based on the idea that top management must demonstrate commitment to quality and build systems that involve everyone, employees, and suppliers. Deming stressed that quality improvement can't happen without organizational change led from the top.
What do the points cover?
They cover wide-range things like creating constancy of purpose, long-term thinking, adopting the new philosophy, ceasing dependence on inspection alone, moving towards single suppliers, improving constantly, instituting training on the job, establishing leadership, driving out fear.
Wow, quite comprehensive.
Breaking down barriers between departments, eliminating slogans, removing management by numerical goals alone, removing barriers to pride of workmanship, promoting education and self-improvement, and making transformation everybody's job. For you, the learner, Deming's points remain remarkably relevant today.
And what about the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle, the PDCA cycle?
The PDCA cycle, also known as the Deming Wheel, illustrates the sequence of activities a company needs to follow for continuous improvement in its operations.
Plan, Do, Check, Act.
Right. It visualizes that never-ending cycle. Plan an improvement, do it, implement the process, check its effectiveness, and then act on what you learn to standardize the improvement or plan the next cycle. It's a simple but powerful tool for improving any process, really.
What should organizations consider when implementing TQM?
Well, implementing TQM is a strategic decision. The first step is really data collection about the organization's current state.
Assess readiness.
Exactly. TQM shouldn't really be implemented unless the organization is in a position where success is likely. If there are major underlying problems like extreme financial instability, weak admin systems, lack of managerial skills, or really low employee morale, TQM might not be the right move yet. A management audit can help identify the current performance levels and areas needing change.
Are there criticisms of TQM?
Yes, there have been. Some critics point to the way it's sometimes implemented, focusing too much on excessive documentation of processes.
Bureaucracy.
Kind of, yeah. Or focusing only on quality assurance rather than improvement, and sometimes being too internally focused rather than customer focused. People like Carlson and Albrecht reemphasize customer focus, stressing total employee involvement and empowering frontline staff. Albrecht also argued TQM might be less suited for service industries, as a standardized best practice approach can ignore organizational culture. He suggested moving towards TQS total quality service, which is more customer-driven and aims to create an environment fostering enthusiasm and commitment. It's a reminder for you, the learner, that not every management approach fits every organization perfectly.
So to sum up TQM, what's the bottom line? And how does it differ from something like Six Sigma?
TQM is really a discipline and philosophy of management. It institutionalizes planned continuous improvement. It recognizes quality results from all activities in the organization involving all functions and employees.
It takes effort, though.
Absolutely. Successful implementation needs significant effort, time, courage, and patience. But the benefits can be huge. Improved quality across processes, better customer retention, increased revenue, stronger global brand recognition.
And Six Sigma.
While TQM shares a lot with the Six Sigma improvement process, they aren't identical. TQM tends to focus broadly on process improvement, whereas Six Sigma has a very strong focus on reducing defects, aiming for that statistically tiny defect rate.
Okay.
World-class companies like GE and Motorola have had great success with Six Sigma programs, often relying on highly trained individuals, sometimes called black belts, to lead improvement projects.
All right, let's move on to supply chain management, SEM. What is a supply chain, fundamentally?
A supply chain is that whole network of entities and activities that serve customers or consumers. It can be interconnected or interdependent.
So everyone involved.
Pretty much. From the vendors supplying raw materials to manufacturers and turning them into products, warehouses storing them, distribution centers moving them to retailers, and finally the retailer selling to the end customer.
How does it relate to the value chain?
The supply chain enables the value chain. Without it, producers can't deliver what customers want, when and where they want it, at a price they're willing to pay. Weaknesses in the supply chain limit a producer's ability to compete. You can also think of it as all the activities associated with the flow and transformation of goods from raw materials right through to the end user. For you, the learner, picture that entire journey a product takes to reach your hands.
What are the main activities involved in that product transformation within a supply chain?
Key activities include production planning, purchasing raw materials, materials management, distribution, customer service, and forecasting future demand.
The Global Supply Chain Forum, GSCF, has a definition. And key processes.
Yes, the GSCF defines SCM as the integration of key business processes from end user through original suppliers, providing products, services, and information that add value for customers and other stakeholders.
And the processes.
They identify 8 key SCM processes: customer relationship management, supplier relationship management, customer service management, demand management, order fulfillment, manufacturing flow management, product development and commercialization, and returns management. It's quite comprehensive.
Are there different types of supply chains?
Broadly, yes. The 2 main types are the push supply chain, which operates based on anticipated demand.
Making stuff hoping people will buy it.
Sort of, yeah. Forecasting demand and producing accordingly. The other is the pull supply chain, which reacts to actual customer demand.
Make stuff after someone orders it.
More or less. And thanks to electronic connections and better information flow, there's been a significant shift towards more customer-centric pull models. For the learner, think push, build, then sell, pull, sell, then build.
What about upstream and downstream flows?
Upstream flow refers to supplier-related activities, the flow of raw materials and components into the company. Downstream flow relates to the consumers or customers, the flow of finished goods out from the company to the end user. And remember, materials, information, and finances flow throughout the entire chain.
Let's focus on upstream supply chain management for a moment, especially supplier relationship management, SRM.
Okay. Upstream SCM is about managing those transactions with suppliers. SRM has evolved quite a bit. In today's global economy, selecting and managing suppliers involves considering innovation, quality, reliability, cost reduction, and risk mitigation.
What goes into supplier strategy?
It involves decisions about sourcing locations, the number of suppliers to use, balancing cost, quality, and delivery speed, and making those crucial make or buy decisions. Do we produce this component internally or source it externally?
And technology's role.
Information technology is vital upstream. E-procurement is a big part, encompassing things like e-sourcing, finding suppliers online, e-purchasing, making the actual buys electronically, and e-payment. IT can be a real source of competitive advantage here through cost leadership, differentiation, or focusing on specific supplier niches.
Now, let's look downstream. What is downstream supply chain management, and how does relationship marketing fit in?
Downstream SCM is about managing interactions with customers. Relationship marketing plays a critical role here.
How so?
It helps organizations retain existing customers and attract new ones through good staff, quality product services, fair prices, and excellent customer service. The 6 markets model identifies areas where organizations can direct marketing efforts. Internal markets, employees, referral markets, influence markets, recruitment markets, supplier markets, and of course, customer markets.
What's the essence of relationship marketing?
It's about creating new value for customers and then sharing that value with them. It emphasizes continuous cooperation between buyer and seller, recognizing the customer lifetime value, CLV, and focusing on the entire chain of relationships within the organization needed to deliver that value. Simply put, it's about building long-term, mutually beneficial relationships by consistently valuing and understanding customer needs.
Okay, so customer relationship management, CRM, fits right in here. What about customer account profitability, CAP, and customer lifetime value, CLV?
Exactly. CRM uses strategies and technologies to manage and analyze customer interactions and data throughout the customer lifecycle. The goal is to improve business relationships, aid retention, and drive sales growth.
And CAP.
Customer account profitability analyzes the net profit from individual customers. It helps understand which customers are most profitable by analyzing the cost to serve them versus the revenue they generate. This often involves classifying customers into different profitability tiers like the platinum, gold, iron, lead example for credit card customers.
And CLV.
Customer lifetime value is the present value of the net profit you expect to earn from a relationship with a particular customer over the entire lifetime of that relationship. It's crucial for focusing efforts on more profitable customers and potentially firing unprofitable ones. For you, the learner, remember these tools help companies understand customers better to build those lasting, profitable relationships.
What are the stages involved in managing the customer lifecycle?
Generally, it involves customer selection, choosing which types of customers to target. Then customer acquisition, developing relationships with new customers. Followed by customer retention, keeping existing customers happy and loyal by understanding their needs and ensuring satisfaction. And finally, customer extension, increasing the range or value of products customers buy, perhaps through repeat sales, cross-selling related items, or upselling higher value products.
How is IT used specifically in downstream SEM?
Downstream, organizations might link their sales systems with customer purchasing systems via electronic data interchange, EDI. They use e-business platforms to sell products directly. Intelligence gathering tools track online customer transactions. And simple things like email are used for communication. IT helps enable faster responses, reduces associated costs, and saves time.
And briefly, brand strategy and service level agreements, SLAs.
Brand strategy is crucial. How a product is branded can significantly impact its appeal. It's about creating that distinct identity, a logo, color, name that differentiates it. An SLA, or service level agreement, is a contract between a service provider and the customer defining the level of service expected. It can be formal or informal, but outlines specifics from service definitions to termination clauses.
What are the overall benefits of having a well-managed supply chain?
The benefits are potentially huge for any business. A well-controlled supply chain delivers tangible advantages like reduced inventory, maybe lower personnel costs, improved productivity, better order management, improved financial cycles, and so on.
And intangible benefits.
Yes, things like better information visibility across the chain, process improvements, improved customer responsiveness, standardization, greater flexibility, and it really facilitates globalization of business performance.
Are there good examples?
The collaboration between Walmart and Procter & Gamble is a classic example of benefits gained through information sharing using shared software systems, RFID technology. Apple's supply chain is another often cited example, particularly its integration with the new product development process, though it also highlights associated risks.
And resilience is key now, right?
Absolutely. Building a resilient and sustainable supply chain is critical given recent global disruptions, pandemics, geopolitical issues, economic shocks, material shortages. It requires flexibility, adaptability, maybe stress testing the chain, and benchmarking. For you, the learner, a robust supply chain is a major factor in protecting your business in today's volatile world.
Let's touch on gain-sharing arrangements. What are those?
Gain sharing is basically an approach to reviewing and adjusting existing contracts so that the changes benefit both parties involved.
How does it typically work?
A common way is for a supplier to agree to perform their part of a contract without a guaranteed payment upfront. Instead, their payment is based on the benefits the customer receives as a result of the supplier successfully fulfilling their end of the deal.
Sounds risky for the supplier.
It definitely is. But if the customer realizes significant benefits, the potential reward for the supplier can also be substantial. It aligns incentives.
Okay. And what about downsizing, outsourcing, and offshoring?
These are strategic decisions often driven, at least in part, by a goal to reduce or manage costs more strategically.
Find them quickly.
Downsizing generally means reducing the workforce, often during tough economic times, sometimes differentiated from right-sizing, which implies getting to the right size. Outsourcing involves transferring non-core business functions to external specialists. And offshoring means relocating business functions to another country, usually to take advantage of lower costs.
Pros and cons.
Each has them. Outsourcing can cut costs and improve productivity via specialization, but brings risks like cultural differences or security issues. Offshoring offers cost savings and access to skills, but can lead to domestic job losses and communication challenges. Careful planning is needed for any of them to succeed.
Our source material also included a test your knowledge section. Can you give us a flavor of that?
Sure. It included things like a caselet on a push-pull inventory system for a company called ABC Ltd, exploring which models suits different products. There were multiple choice questions on topics like the customer's position in the supply chain or the implications of inventory turnover.
Any quality-related questions?
Yes, several questions on cost of quality and TQM. Examples involved analyzing warranty claims at P Limited, evaluating quality cost proposals for a single product company, deciding on component inspection at EKS Ltd, preparing a quality cost statement for H Automobile Group, and analyzing defective components at Cool Air Private Ltd. They really illustrate the practical application of these concepts.
So pulling it all together from today's deep dive, what are the main takeaways?
I think three key themes emerged. First, the absolute importance of understanding the dynamic modern business environment. Second, the need for strategic cost management with a laser focus on quality through COQ analysis and TQM principles. And third, optimizing the flow of goods and information via effective supply chain management.
And a common thread seems to be.
The shift towards a much more customer-centric approach runs through all of these areas. Understanding and meeting customer needs is paramount. For you, the learner, mastering these interconnected areas, cost, quality, supply chain, all with a customer focus, is really essential for success today.
And finally, a provocative thought for you, the learner, to consider. How might the principles we've discussed, cost of quality, total quality management, supply chain optimization, apply not just in business?
Right. Think about applying them in your personal life or maybe other areas of interest. How can you achieve better outcomes and avoid those hidden costs of inefficiency or poor planning in your own endeavors? Reflect on that iceberg of unseen factors in whatever you're pursuing.